Is this the millennial pause they talk about?
Yes, clearly. So we
Uh,
are going live on Instagram as well. Hello, everyone. This is Thad Cox, and we're going to be talking about creativity in branding. Welcome to the Eudaimonia live show. I am Christina, and I have founded Eudaimonia Coaching UK on a mission to propel people to live authentically. And I coach ambitious professionals and entrepreneurs on how to decode their purpose and align their career with it. I introduced the Eudaimonia success model as a TEDx speaker globally in 2018, and I am writing my book on how to access the eudaimonic state of mind. Eudaimonia, for those of you who are joining us for the first time and don't know what it is an ancient Greek paradigm and concept about well-being. It really, in open translation, means human flourishing. Literally has been forgotten for about 2 millennia since Aristotle basically mentioned it. I think a few other philosophers picked it up along the way. And it's only mentioned in philosophical or maybe for lucky psychology courses. So this needs to change, and I'm on a mission to do that. And here we are. I am the host of Eudaimonia Live Show, where I showcase brilliant people who lead with Eudaimonia. So Thad is here because he does that, whether he knew it or not. We'll find out. So today, I have the honor to present Thad Cox. Welcome to our live show.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me.
Yes.
I'm looking forward to it.
He's connecting from Windsor. So we are almost neighbors, right? Almost.
Yep. Yeah, very
Yes.
close. Yeah.
So who is Thad? I'm going to read his bio so that I don't make any mistakes. So Thad Cox helps ambitious founders do one thing most businesses are too afraid to do: be genuinely different. Not radical, not reckless, just unmistakably, memorably themselves. For 25 years, he has worked across advertising, hospitality, and sport, running Michelin-starred restaurants, coaching professional footballers, and building brands for clients ranging from the Dubai royal family to funded startups on both sides of the Atlantic. He brings the thinking of a creative director, the instinct of a founder, and the standards of someone who has spent a career in rooms where ordinary wasn't an option. That's what he does. He finds the idea nobody else in the room saw and helps founders build their brand, their offer, and their story around it. Thad believes that copying feels logical, but really isn't. That conventional thinking always leads to the same, I'll say, boring place. And that the businesses brave enough to do something genuinely different always win. So, do we want to find out more about how he thinks and how he helps businesses think? Well, you're in the right place. I'm so happy to have you here with us.
No, thank you. That was a very, very lovely intro. Thank you.
Okay. And to our audience, I can see a few of you are already here with us. Please comment whenever you feel like it. If something really interests you and you want a little bit more, let us know. We'll pick up your comments and, of course, ask your questions anytime as part of this live stream in the comments, and we will pick it up. And if we don't pick it up, I'll always tag Thad to the conversation so that he can pick it up for you, especially if it's part of his expertise. So, Thad, I know you because you helped us and my other real estate business rebrand very recently. And it was a very esoteric inquiry, right? You took us through self-realizing almost ourselves. And I love that because as a coach, you literally did that for us, but for our business, for the identity of the business that we were still forming. And that was great. So I experienced it firsthand, but your body of work really is truly international. And I'll just mention a few things. New York billboards and your work with New York Dermatology Group, which I would like to hear a little bit more about, to the London dance floors, may I say. I never forgot that you were also a DJ. And Michelin stars in Cornwall as well. Give us a little tour, like, of the most perhaps either weird or interesting spots of your body of work, because it's not just advertising, it's not just a message, it's not just the brand that you've done so much more that brings that knowledge to the branding work that you do today.
Yes, it when you read it like that, it sounds like I knew what I was doing, like it was intentional. But they do say when you look backwards, you can kind of connect the dots a bit easier. So I choose to take that point of view. But yes, I've had a very varied experience. I'm definitely always interested. But I think the great thing is whenever you enter into a new industry, or there's a lot of cross-pollination and a lot of the things that you would learn. So when I did my degree in graphic design, I was very keen to go into advertising because I love the creativity and the thinking. And that was really interesting sort of transition and understanding how thinking is the most valuable currency, and your ideas and your ability to think differently is what makes you most useful. And then obviously when you take that into football coaching, which I thought I was going to do professionally. So when I got my badges through the London FA, again, because you're thinking slightly differently, it means the sessions you can build are more engaging because you're approaching it from a slightly outside perspective. And then again, all of that kind of work helped me run the hotel and the restaurant, because you're kind of now into leadership, and now you're kind of helping people and build a culture and build a team, really. And then the hospitality thinking is definitely embedded in how I like to build brands now, because I kind of feel that it's such an easy win. We love to be treated well. It's easy to be nice to people, and when you make people emotional, they want to come back. So for me, that was a big part of it. So yeah, I'm kind of really into creativity and experience and having fun with it.
Yeah, and I have to ask you about the New York Dermatology Institute work that you've done, which you really it was just a solar protection product that technically they were selling, right? But you turned that around. Give us a little bit about what was the kind of theme that you saw that nobody saw, and of course that created such a massive impact for an important concept. Sorry, I'm not going to say anymore.
No. Well, so it was quite a strange brief. I was working for a client, and originally I had to run about 13 campaigns in about 12 weeks across the Walgreens building. So it was a brief. That's in the middle of Times Square. It's where they do the ball drop. But because you've got so many different panels, you're looking at about 27 panels of creative per campaign, and then digital screens, so they're moving. So it's quite a difficult thing to juggle. But as I've been doing this, as a kind of thank you, they gave me my own billboards. So the brief was, we're going to fly you out. You can actually see your work in person, which was a real honor. And we're going to give you some billboards. So whatever you want to do with them, you can. And I was like, wow, this is great. This is amazing. And part of it, while I was over there, I was going to come in as a kind of fractional creative director to help New York Dermatology Group, because they had, as part of the sort of donation to the foundation, they'd said, look, we're going to give you some billboards, and we're going to give you Thad, and we're going to give you his brain, and he's going to help you make the most of that opportunity. So it was a really amazing trip. I used the billboards because, again, what would you do if you've got billboards? It's kind of quite odd now, because you go, well, what do I promote? No one knows who I am. So I asked, would Gary Vaynerchuk be on my podcast? Because I just thought, well, it's worth a go. He's in New York. And what was interesting and quite humbling is when you get there, you realize that nobody's paying attention. So you're standing by your own billboards, and everyone's ignoring you because Times Square is so busy. And so everyone's so distracted. And it was a real insight going like, wow, even being here, like it's very hard to get people's attention. And I think that lodged in the back of my mind. So when I had the meeting with the New York Dermatology Group, I'd already done, I'll say NYDG, it's much easier for me. I'd done the work, and it was to promote this new sun cream that they were selling. Very high-end sun cream. It was around $100 a bottle from what I remember. And we'd done a kind of a beautiful looking kind of campaign, very outdoorsy, almost like fashion, but it didn't really have an idea behind it. It just kind of looked quite nice. And I remember being in the room and understanding more about the brief and what we were trying to do. And I was just curious to go, so 100% of the profits from this are going to go to your foundation? And they were like, yeah, it's a really big deal. I was like, oh, wow, that's a big gesture. What can you tell me more about what the foundation does? And it turns out that the foundation have been helping people with albinism in Africa quite literally save their lives. So if you have albinism, you are literally hunted by witch doctors for your limbs because they think you have magical properties, and you are ostracized by society. So it's a horrifically tough life. and often there's no escape. And what the foundation was able to do was to help people both from their skin condition and sun cream and all these kind of things, but also give them a way out, that through education and opportunity, they could escape to a better life. And when I heard that, I was like, this is far more compelling. And I remember saying, I think that for me, I just feel this is a much more interesting, more purpose-driven initiative that I think people are going to get behind, because when it comes to, do I choose sun cream? And it's a lot, but if I know that the profit is going to something worthy, I get to feel as though I'm part of that. And so in the room, I just had to challenge the thinking behind, look, we've got this nice campaign, but we've got this amazing opportunity. And I remember the client, Stefan, was amazing. And one of the girls helping sort of said, this could be like Dove, they've got their self-esteem project. We've got what we're doing. And I go, it's kind of crazy that you're doing all this and you're not talking about it. Yeah. Now, I understand the other creative director wanted to run the work. So we agreed, okay, we'll run the billboards. I don't know if they'll do very well, but this is more interesting. And what was fascinating was once we started to think, I think we want to showcase albinism in a positive light, we want to challenge that. I was able to bring in a few really good friends. I had my friend Naz, who I worked with at Leah Burnett, who was at Facebook as a senior creative director. He came on board. The client knew Stephanie Sinclair, who's a National Geographic photographer. She had 2 children with albinism from China. She knew Deandra Forrest, who was a supermodel with albinism, and all of a sudden it started to take shape. And you're like, God, this is opening up so much opportunity that we can do something wonderful here. So the campaign was, and again, this is like, I'm a big believer in, you don't have to have the big ideas. Someone else will probably say something, or you'll see something which will spark an idea. And I remember going back and forth with Naz over email about the idea and saying, we don't want it to be worthy. We don't want to talk about colorless. It needs to be kind of maybe more colorful, the opposite. I was like, oh, hold on a minute. There's something in colorful, but with a double L. So that was the campaign idea. And we used Stephanie's astonishing photography to show albinism, people with albinism living extraordinary lives and give an insight into what they do. So it was a bit like, when you see like Pantone colors, people think typically people with albinism don't have a skin tone, but they actually do. There is a specific color, and albinism comes from the word albus, which is Latin for milk. So once you discover all this, we're able to give each person with albinism their own color, and then underneath we'd put what they're known for. So for Deandra, it was like activist, mother, model. So you're like, oh, there's more to what I'm seeing here. We want to challenge how you see albinism. Anyway, we then were able to reschedule the campaign to launch, so it coincided with World Albinism Day. And now you've got this interesting story going on behind this. More people want to get involved. We can kind of unite this campaign with a more of a social campaign and really raise awareness because it's such an opportunity. Anyway, fast forward, the momentum really picked up. The photography happened. The work was stunning. And it led to, so we launched on World Albinism Day in Times Square. And what was amazing was this was the first time that anyone with albinism had been featured in Times Square. So that was a real coup, that. And everyone was there, and the client was there. And the client said, and I always remember this, he said one of the mums came up to him in tears saying, for the first time in my life, I don't have to worry about my daughter, because to see someone like Deandra with albinism in such a prominent, location, it tells me the world is changing, how people see albinism is changing. And I have a hope that she's going to have a wonderful life and not be judged by how she looks. And that's where you're having real impact. So for me, that's always my favorite part. But on the other side, when we looked at the stats, there was like a 4,000% increase in sales of the sun cream. We got an official partnership with the United Nations, which is very unheard of, particularly for a tiny charity. We were in quite advanced talks with Sesame Street to create a Muppet with albinism as well. We did this. We did partnerships with Oxford University. The show went traveling around the world. It was kind of extraordinary, everything that came with it. And I think what we realized, or what I realized, is by having my own billboards ignored, because I'd done nothing to complement it. I hadn't really told anyone. There was no sort of awareness. I was really bad at promoting it. But with this, we were able to do the campaign digitally to amplify the message because of the kudos of being in Times Square. And that built momentum, built awareness, got interest, got partnerships, and had a massive effect. And it's the most rewarding project I've worked on for years. It's just because you're kind of overseeing it in this weird role, of trying to pull everything together, working with brilliant people, and actually having a really tangible outcome. So I found that, immensely rewarding.
And I'm asking about it because it really stayed with me when we first, got to know you, and, you were showcasing a bit of your work, and that really stayed with me. And as you were sharing the impact that it had, obviously I didn't have a chance to, speak to you about this in depth. I was having goosebumps about how you connected purpose with impact, with really allowing people to be authentically themselves and live their life without worrying about what people will think about them and so on. So there's a lot of themes here that are coming back to the Eudaimonia, live show themes here. So thank you for sharing this in such a beautiful way. And I didn't even expect you would. So thank you. And people already who are following us and are with us on this live show can probably sense already the attention to detail, how you work, how you pick up on one idea, on one comment that someone mentioned on the team, where you listen to everybody. And I know you do listen to people, because when you work with us on my company, you listen to our investors, you listen to our partners, you listen to different shareholders, stakeholders as well. So really you find what delights customers. And I have witnessed that working with you. You've got a knack for it. So my question to you is, you worked on many, many projects, and I'm sure not necessarily all at the scale of what we're talking about here, like the New York Dermatology Group, but with smaller founders as well. What have you really kind of noticed is key that you look for to unlock that delight, that insight, that idea that will turn around something that is another real estate business, for example, into, whoa, I want to work with these people?
It's I wish there was a formula, because I could say it, and it's a really annoying answer, because if I'm like, I don't really know, it will just happen. I tend to think there's a lot of the people I work with are doing really great things purely because on instinct, or because it matters to them and they're happy to do it, but they just don't talk about it, or they just assume, doesn't everyone do this? And so even with like your story and how that all started, about how you wanted to bring your mum to the UK, just that insight of like, you wanted to do that genuinely, but that's such a universal feeling of wanting our parents to be close to us as they get older, and also the realization, like, if I'm going to do this, I need help. So your motivation for setting everything up was never like, how can I make quick money? It was, no, I have to fulfill my purpose and bring my family close to me as soon as I can. The system is not set up to help me, so I've got to find a way of using mine and yours and Paul's brilliant financial acumen and business understanding to find an opportunity. But your motivation was always to bring your family back together. And for me, that's such a relatable human trait. So whatever people are doing, I think that everyone responds to kindness and humanity. And I think you just overlook it because it's what you think everyone does. But so often
it was just personal. Yeah, I thought it was just my business, my family, who would care about this, right?
Yeah, everyone. Because it's, again, it's the thing of, it's the logic versus emotion. Like, logically, you're going to probably compare returns, rates, timescales, fine. But emotion, which lights up the brain a lot more, is like, why are you doing it? And if I know why you're doing it, you're going to connect with me in a way that other people can't. And it's a unique story that's completely true to you. So it's not replicated. It's not been made up by AI. You don't need to fight. Like, you've got photos of it. I've met your mum. She's awesome. She's so happy. But that only starts because of so much adversity you had to go through. So for me, it's an easy one, because that's such a compelling, relatable story. I just want to find a way to tell the world, because when they get it, that's what they're going to remember. The emotion is key to memory. Like, neurologically, logic only lights up the front of the brain because it makes sense, but the emotion lights up the whole brain. This is why if you hear music, or you watch an old film scene, or someone mentions a quote, you're just gone, because it's like you're back there when you were really invested, and you're very, very engaged at that moment. That's why storytelling's so good. So good emotional storytelling captures your attention. So I think a lot of it is unearthing the stories, and often the meaning behind the story or the reason is probably closely linked to your purpose, and we want to always start there because that's the one advantage you have.
Thank you. Well, I'm convinced. Wow. And I love what you said, how emotion lights up our brain completely and neurologically. So this is backed by science. And you're right, without emotion, nothing is memorable, nothing is relatable. And normally founders would find their story too personal and maybe too vulnerable to share sometimes. But actually, this is the only thing that could possibly get through to the other person so quickly, because it's story based, it's emotion based, it's personal, so it cannot
It's
be
the truth.
replicated.
You're
Beautiful.
being honest with me, and I think, and you can, and because you're telling the truth, it's consistent. We always hear that when we're growing up, like if you tell a lie, you got to remember what you've told. It'll catch up with you.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
your parents always like, so tell me the truth now. It's better to do that. And so then it is the consistency, and you don't need to worry because you're being honest. And again, even if people interrogate it because it's true, you can reflect and answer it. So yeah, I always think that that's the thing. People really respect it when you're being honest with them. They can sense when you're telling the truth. And if it's a relatable truth, that's where we want to get to. I think probably a big part of it is, how do we find the way to tell it so it feels very relatable? It's a bit like good comedy. Good comedy is honed to such a degree that everyone in the audience goes, oh my God, I thought that, or oh, that's me. Yet you're surrounded by thousands of people saying the same thing. So there's a really nice balance of it's completely generic, yet very specific. And I think the best comedy is able to do that.
Yeah. Those embarrassing moments, right? It was like,
they feel terrible. We've all been there. It's like I was, I almost lied then. I said I read a book. I was listening to a book called The Power of Moments. And it was talking about how our perception of time changes as we get older. It seems to speed up. And it said that because what happens is when we're doing something for the first time, there's real novelty and we're really engaged, and time slows down as we focus. But during our lives, most of the novelty, when people ask, what are the bits you remember, they happen in the first sort of 25 years. First girlfriend, first kiss, graduation, first job, all those sort of things. And then later on, it's usually funerals and all. So it's like there's less novelty. And as you get older, that life becomes more repetitious. And that's why it just seems to blend into one. So I think that if you can be honest with people and find something that surprises them, and that's what your purpose story will do. It's unexpected, it's true, it's novel. This is why the wisdom behind copy what everyone else is doing and you'll go viral doesn't make any sense. And there's a thing called Hotelling's law, which is everything might start out different. So it will say like, restaurants, political parties, all these things start out different, but over time they try and copy each other to get each other's audiences, and they just slide to the middle, and everyone kind of sounds the same, and I can't really tell you apart. And that's when your only hope is to be different. And if you own that difference because it's true to you, no one can ever copy you.
It's brilliant, because that really truly resonates with a lot of my clients, where they might not be able to say, oh, I'm trying to fit in, but actually in a corporate world, especially when we've got a career, we're trying to fit in. We're trying to look over our shoulder just to see what everybody else is doing, make sure we don't fall back in terms of performance or in terms of accolades we need to, in terms of degrees or in terms of skill sets. And now with AI, we're like, oh yeah, the whole world is in the process of making sure I'm not going to be left behind. There's a lot of trying to copy just to remain afloat. And there's a lot of stress associated with that. And there's a lot of conditioning to fit in. But actually, what you're really suggesting here, which really applies for people who want to stand out, who want to do better than another, there's going to be a courageous moment when you're going to have to leave the mass and go your own way. And for a while, you'll be walking alone. But by doing certain things like being honest, being principled, being consistent on that story, being memorable, can really bring forward different results than just copying. Thank you. You did answer that question. We do seem to have a key that unlocks.
But it's interesting. A couple of things you said there. The first thing about purpose is so when I'm working with clients, it's, they don't always understand the value of purpose. But the thing would be, if you have say a coffee shop and it's going quite well, but you don't really have a purpose behind it, it's fine. The problem is going to be if another coffee shop arrives in your town that does have a purpose, people will gravitate to the purpose away from you. And then the only way you can win them back is usually by incentivizing them for loyalty, discounts. Like, you're going to have to spend money to try and get them back, and they're not really as enthralled, which means that that's where you're vulnerable. So I agree with you. It's like, it's this thing of, a lot of people say, well, do I need one? I think it's super important to keep that solid foundation for why people should choose you, and give them that unique reason. And the thing you said about AI, there's a good quote from Rory Sutherland, who I'm a big fan of, where he says, when you act logically, you end up in the same place as your competition, which you were just describing. With AI, I think when you act logically, you become predictable. And when you become predictable, you become replaceable. And that's the fear. So while it makes sense to do this and sound like this and use AI to write for you, at some point, if everyone is sounding the same and you've lost the ability to write with your own voice, you've been replaced, but also replicated. So now you are irrelevant, and that skill is atrophied. So to get it back is really hard. So yeah, I do feel it makes sense to do what's working and to copy people. That's the certainty they want, and data will prove that. But I also think that we all pick businesses because of things to do. You talked about when you go back to Greece, and all the things you remember are the gestures that the people make for you, the pastries that they give you because they give it to their own family, the conversations in the street. That's what you remember. So our own behavior, I think, sometimes defies what we're being told. So I'm always aware of that.
Totally. Really touched my heart now. I love what you said, and how older people feel that time runs quicker. And you mentioned a key word there, which I absolutely want to bring back to the next question, which is novelty. So you really work with founders, young businesses, to hone the customer insights that they have, especially customer experience insights, and bring the uniqueness and the novelty in their work. Because, as with me, I didn't know what was novel about what I was doing. And obviously you worked with many, many people. So what would you say people miss? Because it's not that they don't know they are unique. It's not that we know that as a rule. Everybody's unique. Every business has a different identity, different way of communicating, and so on. What's hiding in plain sight for those who dare to implement their uniqueness and express it? Because it's really upsetting to see that copycatting thing. We're all rushing to copy now, and we're forced to do it. Otherwise, we will remain and become irrelevant in the waves of information that AI is producing, sounding the same, and so on. So what's really what people are missing here? What's the thing that we are almost going to come to start craving for again, because we've destroyed it, we beat it out of humanity almost?
One thing I thought of the other day, which is sometimes, because we're always being messaged all the time, constantly, there is the world that you can affect and that affects you, and there is the world you can't, but you're aware of. And so it's not that it's good to be informed, but I was thinking, like, if I was living in England while Genghis Khan was ravaging Asia, I would never know that was happening. So it wouldn't affect me. It wouldn't stress me out. But if I'd had social media back in those times, I'd be constantly told, oh my God, he's at it again. He could come here. And I'd be living in fear of this warlord who is apparently coming to ransack my village. But that's because social media is feeding me this message. If I choose not to listen, I'm not aware of it. It doesn't affect me as much. So with a lot of the AI messaging of, like, you're running out of time, I think there's a point of, like, who does that benefit to? Who's putting the fear in me? I resent that. I think that it's like going, the microwave meal is going to destroy all restaurants. But Photoshop didn't destroy art. It's just a tool. So for me, I'm always a little bit, I think if it's beginning to affect me and make me anxious, I need to be wary of it, because it benefits someone else to make me anxious, because we naturally seek kind of certainty when we're anxious. And I would always be not fearful of AI, but just realistic and just be aware of how I'm using it. I think with people, the fear isn't like, will someone copy me? If it's a unique story to you, then that's great. It doesn't matter. It doesn't mean just because they've copied it takes anything away from you. It's kind of, there's plenty to go around. And I think it's probably to find out what those things are. It's so helpful to talk to your customers and your team. And that's why I like to do that, because it's a weird thing of the typical exchange in most businesses is you don't talk to your clients really unless there's a contract or there's money being exchanged or there's a job you're working on. The idea of going, I just love to talk to you to see how it's going, or I'd love to talk to your customers as well as you, which sounds like it's kind of market research, I know, but the amount of times I've talked to customers of people and just uncovered stuff that they would never think of or they didn't know, even just what you're doing well is really nice. So when I run the workshop, it's I want to find this, what do you need to continue doing, what do you need to stop doing, what do you need to start doing? Very simple, but they'll tell me, and I'll never get that research from AI. I can only get it from having conversations, but it's so interesting to see what you're doing right, being validated by other people. And often the signals are there, but it's just probably asking around. Like I know you like the sausage karma story, don't you? And I think that's probably a good one, because I didn't really recognize that at the time. So we're all vulnerable to it.
But I remember I always tell Thad, oh, sausage karma, and then we know why we're laughing, but you need to hear it as well.
Yeah, it does need some context. So when I was running our hotel, we would often get dog owners to stay. And I love dogs. It's that simple. So every time they would say, can we bring a dog? You're like, yeah, of course. I would hate for you to be put in a position where you have to leave your dog behind. So bring the dog. And they would say, would you mind if the dog was under the table at breakfast? And of course, I don't mind at all. I'm very happy. I understand some people don't like it, but generally, yeah, dogs are fine. Dog owners are very respectful and their dogs are super well behaved. Some might say it's sometimes better than children. So for me, dog owners are great. So children can be great as well, but no, I'm joking. But it was more just, it was just that thing. But generally, it was a perception like, oh, dogs are going to be noisy. They're totally not. You know, they're often brilliant. Kids are great as well. But what I would say, but what would happen was, so when I did our breakfast, I made a real effort to do the breakfast right, and I spent a long time sourcing the best ingredients. And one of the things I was particularly passionate about was the sausages. And we would get the sausages from St. Ives Food Company. It was the only thing we ordered from them. We had a local butcher we got our bacon and black pudding from. But they were great sausages. And when we would cook our breakfasts, I knew that the dog owner would be in a dilemma, because it's like, I want to give my dog a bit of the sausage, but the sausage is too good to give to the dog. So what do I do? So yeah, it's just, but it's true. They're good sausages.
For yourself, haven't you?
Yes, this is me.
Brilliant.
So what happened was we would then secretly kind of go, look, put on an extra sausage, cook it as a surprise, chop it up so it doesn't burn the dog's mouth, and take it out in a little ramekin. And so you would do this and go, look, we've also got a sausage for your dog. And they would be like, oh my God, thank you so much. And of course, the dog loves you. They love you. And I was like, I was just doing this. But I noticed that after a while, the first thing was the staff got competitive, because they wanted the adoration of like, oh, wow. So people would kind of be a little bit, can I take the sausage out? And I was like, that's a funny thing. And then you would get people who would go, I've heard you give sausages to dogs at breakfast. Is this true? And I'm like, yeah, great. Can we come and stay? And it'd be classic kind of, I always remember there was a pug called Captain, and it was like, can Captain come and have a sausage? And I was like, welcome aboard, Captain, come along. And it was like, oh, something's happening here where, because like I think on a technical level, we're showing love for something that's important to them. I understand that. But it's a genuine human sense of generosity of spirit. And I also know it's an unexpected surprise. So there's moments in the customer journey where you're expecting something to happen, and other times when you're not. And at breakfast, we completely surprised them with something. So it really outranked. From the outside, you're going to go, it's a sausage. What's the big deal? It's just that in that context, they weren't expecting it. So it really over-indexed. But you found it was now when they were leaving, it wasn't uncomfortable, but you were hugging rather than just giving them the bill. There was a definite, like, you were on first name terms. So anyway, I kind of realized that this is picking up, because we were ordering in so much extra sausage for the people that were coming with dogs. And it was like, have we got enough sausages because we've got dogs staying? And so you realize that actually, if I was putting the money I was putting into sausages into advertising, I'm getting a much better return on my investment for buying sausages than I ever would running an ad campaign. And so what's really fascinating is I was kind of call it sausage karma because it's giving back all the time. And it was the most successful kind of campaign in speech marks that we ever did, because even after the hotel closed and went to a holiday let, people would still phone us and go, are you still doing that? And then the great bit about it, ironically, is when I talk about it now, even though there are no dogs or sausages present, people still like the story. So actually it works as a way of people being reminded of what I do. So very early on, I left a comment on one of Gary Vee's videos about sausage karma, and he read it out. And people are like, oh my God, he mentioned you on the Gary Vee #1, I think. It's a very long time ago, but it resonated with him. So he talked about it. And so you realize the sausage karma is still happening. And for me, you kind of go, that was such a small gesture. So I would go, I bet there's things that you've either had done for you or that you do for people, or you could do for people that in an environment of efficiency, outsourcing, touching a screen to place an order for coffee instead of talking to a person, that's your opportunity. When everyone is going for speed and convenience and isolation, doubling down on humanity and kindness is always going to over-index.
I love this because that's what we miss. In the end, the humanity aspect of it, as you said, and the generosity and the kindness. I'll go back to the coffee shop that gives me something small, maybe for free, or, they actually tell me good morning, or something happens and I drop my coffee. They don't even ask. They make me a new one. In this case, if my dog is happy.
But it's true. Like those gestures mean a lot, don't they? And you remember them. Yeah. And then I suspect you probably go back quite a lot because of these kind gestures.
What they say is, I'm loved, I'm taken care of, I am seen, I count.
It's even just saying, hello, how was your day? Have you done that where you say, when they say, hi, how are you? And you go, I'm good, how are you? And they're like, oh, no one's asked me that today. And it's like, well, I'm genuinely curious, so.
Yeah, totally. Thank you. And this is what most people miss on the customer experience journey. And I come from a corporate professional background, and it was all about efficiency, effectiveness, cost cutting, making sure we save the pennies on every transaction. And actually, really what brings me to a business is when they make the occasional exception, when they actually hear me, when they see me, when something or someone I love is taken care of. In this case, where do I go? In our town, I go to the coffee shop that they take care of my mom. And when she says, oh, they said hello to me, they always treat me right, they give me a free cake, I go back to that coffee shop somehow. Because
and you bring your people with you. That was always my mantra at the hotel. Again, not being trained in hospitality, but kind of wanting to do the right thing. It was simply, all I want is do whatever you can to make that person not only want to come back, but bring their friends. So either you are contributing to that in some form through nice gestures, spending a bit longer talking to them, giving recommendations, or you're detracting from it. So I don't need to tell you because you know if you're doing it, and it doesn't cost much just to go the extra mile to do the extra thing. And time and time again in businesses, when you've realized they do this, they always do well long term. It's just, I think it's always, like you said, it's the person that will say you should remove the doorman. I mean, Rory Sutherland talks about this, but he'll say someone will come in and go, I can save you thousands of pounds, get rid of the doorman at the hotel and put in a sliding door. But the problem is that on paper that saves money, but actually the doorman does so much more than just his salary. And I think this is he will reference the Oscar Wilde quote of they know the price of everything but the value of nothing. And I think what we're talking about is harder to quantify, but it depends on how you're measuring it. So if I would say the amount of times you've had a coffee and you've gone back to that place and you've brought people is going to over-index, then they're going to go, well, why is that? And that was probably because overall they've given you a few free coffees and just been really nice. It's a great return on investment if you're looking at it that way.
Yeah, and it's so much more beneficial for the wellness. I mean, I see it as a coach as well, of the people working there when they start forming relationships with the customers who come back and forth, because it's not just an acquaintance. Actually, when I saw the coffee shop lady, walking down the street earlier, we said hello to each other, and it was nice because we felt like we know each other. But she always treats me well. She always makes sure that, my mum is, always not missing the queue because she's confused or something like that, and that she always finds a seat in the coffee shop. It makes all the difference in the end. So thank you for sharing those.
It's funny, actually. I found a clip the other day. This guy, I put it on my stories, but I think that he's a plumber from Jobs Are Good, and he's called Carl. And so the clip I saw was him. He went to visit an old lady, and she was sort of explaining that she had a leak, and this guy had come in, and all of a sudden he was fixing things around the house that she didn't ask him to fix. And then he asked for £7,000 from her. And she was so terrified. She just goes, well, he knows where I live. So she gave him the money, and he was recording it. And he was so angry because he said, some people are awful, they're cowboys. Anyway, he took away looked behind her walls, and she said, oh, I know I've got a lot of damp back there. It's a big job, isn't it? He goes, no, there's just a slow leak. I've tightened it. It's stopped. I'll come back tomorrow and put everything back for you. And she's like, oh God, thank you. So I don't want payment. And she's like, can I give you tea and biscuits? He's like, I'll definitely take tea and biscuits. And then I saw another video. So I go, what a lovely guy. I'm going to look at his profile. The next video I see, he's driving along. He's got his Ray-Ban glasses on. This granny, she's missed her bus. He's like, oh, auntie, get in. We'll catch the bus for you. And he drives her to her destination. And she says, thank you very much. And you're going, this is the best form of marketing if you want to look at it like that, because you go, that guy's amazing.
Yeah.
I would talk about what he's doing. Yeah. And you just go, what a nice man.
Yeah. And who would I trust with my granny?
Yes.
To make sure.
You want that guy in your home because he's going to be really kind and considerate. And that would such a positive thing, but it's probably just who he is and how he behaves. But at least he's talking about it, which is great.
And he just happens to be a handyman plumber. The thing, I love this because we strive to do all the right things in our businesses, having funnels, having a marketing thing, having AI on board, you name it, right? The latest thing that we need to have, like chat bots, whatever it was a few years ago, and it gets so intimidating and overwhelming. But actually, truly, what really matters is those things and how you communicate them. So I must ask you, you've got your sweet spot for, of course, startups, founders, scale-ups as well, at the stage before they need an agency. So you can help them as a fractional creative director on certain creative work that they have to do. So like, what really catches your attention in human relationships and business interactions? And of course, you talked a little bit about the AI side of things that we are missing on, but there's a few examples we've talked about, like how kind of looking at other businesses which are out of our league or, out of our industry, for example, can really help. Kind of, this is how you do, and help them kind of come out of their comfort zone and look at themselves in a different light if they were another type of business, and you kind of get them really into finding what creative expression they can have in a world obviously littered with a lot of automated and copycat related campaigns. So as a fractional creative director for smaller businesses who are wanting to scale up and become bigger, how do you really hone into what catches attention in a very, very busy, noisy world now out there?
I think so. I think in my role, when you go into a startup of that size, it's the thing of it's usually, as you said before, they've looking to hire a full agency. Fortunately, because of my connections and experience, as you know, I can help with quite a lot of things, from video to branding to marketing. And that's quite useful. And I like people. So having run my own businesses, I can work with a team quite easily. And that's what I think is my advantage, is you get the business understanding and the people skills, as well as the creativity and the kind of ambition to do more. So that's the role I like playing. I find that whenever I go in, because I want to talk to the founders, the team and the customers, my goal is to remember who it's for, which is always the end user. They're the most important person. And I'm always looking to try and understand what they're looking for, but they can't find. And if you can be the person to provide that, then often you've got an advantage. It's unrealistic to expect to find one silver bullet that everyone else has overlooked. But I think inherently there's usually enough feedback to sense that the compounding of maybe little things you could do differently, they all add up to be we know the Dave Brailsford sort of marginal gain cycling thing for the British Olympics is in, you're not going to find 10% difference, but you'll find 1% differences. I'm looking to try and find that for you so that when it comes to, well, who should I choose? It's clear why to choose you. It doesn't have to be, we're better than everyone else. It just is like, we offer something that no one else does, whether that's our story, our purpose is unique, our product, how we do it, how we treat people. There is so many little advantages that I really love. So for me, it's uncovering all of that and packaging it and then communicating it to the right audience so that you can, again, it's got to be something which makes you and your team excited to do. And then it's got to be resonating with the audience. But I like to include your clients and customers in that. And that's purely just a safety mechanism, because if they are resonating with it and then they're validating we're on the right path, then that's such it's such a relief, because otherwise it's done in a vacuum. I've seen a lot of projects where you say, we'll design a website and you'll do the messaging and you'll work really hard on it, but you'll never once ask the person it's intended for to have a look at it. And really you want to be able to sort of bounce it back off that person several times, because they're going to see things that you don't. And so the whole experience for me, that's where there's real value, is in managing all of that, is where I'm kind of looking to help you and anyone stand out and lean into that creativity. And I think it's always more fun. Like there's something in, like, when you're onto a good idea, it's infectious. And I think everyone has the capacity to be creative. They might have been told they haven't. And that drives me mad, because it has the capacity. And I think what you alluded to, which is the second part, is my ex behaving like why thing that I do.
Yes.
Which I really like, because it's so simple and it really helps people. So I can break that down a bit if you like.
Yes, absolutely. Go for it, because I think it's so relevant. I just want to say what you do is so essential, at least it was for our business. Because the most uncomfortable thing is going back to your client and having to listen almost, right? And I'm honest, I'm putting my hand up here. I'm thinking, what if my investors or my clients or my coachees didn't really like things? Will they tell me to my face?
Yes.
And if they do, oh my God, I wish I knew that before, right? So there is a lot of self-judgment that goes in there. And I'm being completely honest, right?
Yeah.
These conversations can be uncomfortable. And having somebody who's independent, who knows how to filter or get to the truth easily, and having to take off, that load from my lap and actually give it over to you is such a relief, right? I see Jack Sherry's, comment. Thank you. Hello, Jack. How are you? Love the
Nice
1%
to
point, right?
Yeah.
It's a great, offer where you're not finding the one massive thing that's going to skyrocket somebody else's business, but actually collecting all of these little gems and creating it, repackaging it in a way that will resonate. This is exactly what you do. And although it sounds logical, obvious, most of us founders, first of all, we don't have the time. Secondly, it's very uncomfortable to do so.
Well, yeah, I think also I'm not selling. So so we had an example where I was doing for a client. He went on the workshop. He sells solar panels. He wanted to get into care homes. When I approached the care home to talk to them about it, they were like, look, we're not buying anything. And I was like, no, I'm not selling. I just want to chat. Have you got 15 minutes? That was about an hour and 10 minutes. By the time I'd finished, we were getting on very well. Again, it's this hotel manager thing. You get used to talking to people. But what we uncovered for him, what he was leading with at the time, which was kind of very much the quality of the tech, was a big thing for him.
He's an engineer, right? So I'm sure he would be selling the features of the solution.
Absolutely. And when I said, is this a priority for you? They were like, no, not in any way. And you're like, oh, wow, that's interesting. Already we're halfway there. And they were like, look, we just want the least disruption. So our residents are the most important thing. We don't want them to be upset. We don't want them to be confused. And if you're installing stuff and it's noisy and messy, that's going to be a problem. So if you could do a kind of white gloves type install where we don't really see you and you're very non-intrusive, we would love that. So all of a sudden, she's given me a wonderful starting point. And I'm then going to go back to him and go, I think if you did a service where you managed it around their operating hours, you were very good on your communication, you bought branded kit that had the logo of your client and you on there, you put clear signage up, you bought little gifts to say sorry for the people that were confused, you made sure you were totally silent, you cleaned down every day, just simple things. But again, it's like Jack likes, it's the 1% adding up. And now when they're approaching, if you approach a care home and they've got 2 solar installers, if you talk on tech, it's close. But if you go, look, we give the really great tech, but I know what matters to you is lack of disruption, keeping your guests happy. We've got this service we offer. We only built it for care homes with care homes in mind. Here it is. You're going to go, well, that's great. So even though the price might be better of this guy, now I want you, and now we're not competing on price. So for me, they're the things I'll uncover. But as you said, it's not easy to have feedback. It's my job to give you the feedback in a way that is honest but not upsetting, because I don't see the value because most people you're trying your best. So if there is something where there's a disconnection, that's not a problem. It just is like, it's just on this case, it's very much you've put an emphasis on this. They're not that interested in that. They'd rather hear about that. That's all it is. So again, a lot of people like the fact that they know, like I can mark the homework and go, you've done this really well. They love all these things about you. I would perhaps allocate less resources to talking about that because they don't mind it, but it's not going to be the thing that makes a difference. So you can feel, okay, I'm well-intentioned, but it's not a problem. And that's also my job, is to make sure that you don't feel disillusioned, that you don't lose energy, because we want buy-in from everyone. So though I like managing all of that and being discreet and, showing how you give feedback.
Brilliant. Thank you. And do tell us about your ex instead of doing, or however you frame that. Yeah.
So when I was doing the Creative Heist workshops, I wanted to run a session in a room, and the Creative Heist, is basically, it was pitching, but it was like a Hollywood heist movie. So the goal was like, who do we want to get? We need to get the inside man. We need to build the Trojan horse. It was quite an extensive process. And I was thinking, I need something in the room that is a simple framework that I can rely on, that anyone can use, that's going to help them generate ideas and think differently, even if they don't think they're creative. And so the X behaving like Y framework was the thing I came up with, because I noticed that there is a real, again, what we talked about at the beginning, if something is too familiar, we are designed, evolutionarily wise, to tune it out. So our brains are reacting for danger. If it's not dangerous, we ignore it. And that's why, again, people can ignore everything in Times Square, because it's just noise, but they're focused on getting that photo or finding one thing. Again, if it's too new and it's too novel, it's scary, because it takes a huge amount of behavioral change in order to enact that. People don't want to do it. They don't want to be the first. It's quite difficult. So you get a bell curve that goes from not interested because it's familiar to like, oh, I really love that because that's a blend, and then not interested because it's too new. And a great example would be Stranger Things, which is, it blends kind of familiar retro 80s horror movies that we kind of know, The Goonies, E.T., all that, Stand By Me, with a new story, which is new and different, which I've not heard. And that is a perfect sweet spot, and it's why it's such a massive hit. So I'm always looking to kind of go, how can we behave like a business but is also familiar but new? So an example would be, if you are a dentist, what you would expect of a dentist is white, green, and blue, very smiley, friendly. But I'm going to go, well,
and
I want to think differently. So so I'd go, right, I'm looking to behave.
While you're there.
Yes. So I want to go, if you were a dentist and you behave differently, how would that affect how you show up? So if I said, you are a dentist behaving like a high-end fashion house. So you're going to go, so how would Chanel look if it was a dentist? So you'd immediately go, Chanel behaving like a dentist would be beautiful people, beautiful uniforms in really exquisite locations, limited availability, black and white photography, minimalist, very stylish. And you go, wow, if I found a dentist that looked like that, that would stand out. And the great thing is, if you are a dentist that wants to target people who can afford Chanel, then you need to show up in a way that makes them feel comfortable. So you're new because you're a dentist that looks different, but yeah, you also feel familiar. And so the challenge is always, if I said in a room, right, we're going to create a dentist, but they're going to behave like a high-end fashion brand. And we would go through, like, what would their photography look like? What would their messaging be? Who would be their brand ambassadors? How would they make money? Where would they be showing up? Where would they have locations? So because you know how Chanel behaves, you can bring all that across, but it feels immediately new as a dentist. So you're kind of like, oh, wow. And then all we've got to do is go, let's change the variables. So a restaurant behaving like a gallery.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, how would a restaurant behave like it was a gallery? You can immediately, because I know a gallery, so I can pull it across. And again, a gallery behaving like a restaurant. It changes how you feel. And I find that framework immediately gets people thinking differently. And even with a bit of interrogation as to, like, well, how do they make money? Or who do they associate with? Or how do they promote themselves? Because you've seen it somewhere else, it feels familiar, but it's out of context. So it's an anomaly. So it feels very fresh and different. And there's quite a few brands. Hotel Chocolat, I suppose, is a chocolate brand. It's a chocolate brand that feels like a kind of like almost like a perfume or a high-end like jewelry. It's a bit unusual, but that's their advantage and that's their positioning, so they appeal to a certain audience.
Yeah. Thank you. That's such a easy way to get out of context, but also that also lifts the client thinking, okay, well, I have to compete with all the other galleries or all the other dentists in the local area. Suddenly, when you put, a parameter such as, okay, well, like a fashion house, completely takes it off competition, and you really get out of your limitations. Creatively, at least. I think this is brilliant. And I'm so glad you mentioned it, because we wanted to talk about some frameworks on how to think about that. But more so, the work that you help them do to look the part and position, the whole communication and marketing, message differently now. And you basically outcompete anyone who does same old, that copies, which obviously we mentioned before, lead us to the same place. No results, just fighting in the Red Sea.
Just everyone ends up looking at the thing with this is, as well as it being quite easy to do, strategically, you're looking to reposition to attract a certain audience. So once you were clear on the audience you want to attract, it's very easy to understand, well, where do they spend money? So if I wanted to, it's like I was thinking, if you're a plumber and you go, I want to target high-end people that go to like luxury car dealerships like Mercedes and BMW. Well, if you've been to Mercedes and BMW, I'm sure there is a service where they'll come and pick up your car, take it away, wash it, clean it, service it, and drop it back. So if you were a plumber, you could say, how about I'm going to redo your bathroom, but I'm going to send you to a Michelin-starred restaurant for lunch. You're going to spend the afternoon there on me while I do all the repairs. I'll bring you back in a taxi. It's all done, and that's the bill. And it might cost more, but all of a sudden, you want to book that plumber because he's going to send you away. It could be, look, I've got to do your whole bathroom. I need you gone for 3 days. So I've booked you a holiday. You're going to go to wherever. You're going to go to Rome for the weekend. Yeah. But again, so you might go, well, that's so exciting. Yeah, but again, if you want a certain audience that have got the disposable income where that's not a problem to them, they will pay a lot more for your services. And ironically, they would like a family plumber. It would make so much more sense to go, I can make all these changes over a weekend. If I send you to Center Parks, would that work for you? And you'll be like, oh my God, we get a free holiday that we will always be putting off. But for then him, he's like, I've got the house 24 hours. If I schedule my team in 8-hour shifts, we can go through the night. We do all the painting and the quiet jobs, electrician at night. We do the noisy stuff in the day. Basically, they're gone for 3 days, but that's more like actually 4 or 5 days worth of work because we're working through the night. They come back, it's all done. They've had a holiday. Everyone wins. That's the type of thinking I'm interested in, and just offering something a little bit different because, again, you understand, well, my audience likes holidays in Center Parks. How can I take advantage of that?
And also value time and disruption.
It's for everyone. It's disruptive, isn't it? Nobody likes having the bathroom out of action. So you kind of almost half go, we should have checked into a hotel. But if the plumber goes, that's part of the service, and they take it off your hands, perfect. And then I also know who are they going to talk to? If your audience is ideally families, well, all the mums and dads at school are going to hear about this. And who are they going to want to book? They're going to book you. It's like it all works.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you. Such amazing ideas, right? And these are the ideas that perhaps, I want to say perhaps, AI wouldn't be able to bring. And if it did, perhaps it would probably be one line on all of them, and the person who's interacting maybe with certain chatbots and so on wouldn't be able to really land, because the conversation, the connection, for example, we're having right now makes all the difference for me to really land those ideas, the story, the surprise, the way you describe them. I must ask about this because a lot of the founders that I know of, or if I was a new beginning founder now with AI, I didn't have the choice before, but now if I was starting a business, I would probably resort, shall we say, my marketing needs to AI and all this amazing graphics that it can create and iterations in seconds pretty much. I feel that this threatens really the one-man band type of creative agencies or creative directors like you. It's tempting for businesses to trade their marketing needs for convenience, for speed, for cost. What's your view, or what's your hope, perhaps, in terms of what businesses can do? Which this option is now very tempting, and a lot of them will do it. What do you hope for the world of young businesses to look like? Because that is a major factor, I think, which we're going to see, and we're going to have to be exposed to, shall we say, in the next few years.
Well, I mean, we were talking before we went live that if you receive an AI response or text, or you read an AI post, or a post you suspect is made with AI, or you see a video that you think is AI, what's your reaction?
So I was just saying to Thad that I have trained a few of my friends. Whenever they send me a video on WhatsApp or something like that, I just go like this when it's AI created, and especially some of them now with a couple of them, they now delete it the moment they realize it's AI. It's deleted before I see it because they're terrified that I'm going to say, "What's that?" Obviously, that's with a couple of my friends, not with all of them. You can still send me videos and reels. And
but it's interesting, though, isn't it? You kind of feel like it doesn't have the value because I know it was produced quickly, and I think humans inherently, they value something which takes a long time to acquire. That's why genuine skill or experience, or that's valued still. I think so. I'm interested in your reaction. Mine is pretty similar. If I sense that someone is, say, creating more content, but it's AI, I'm less interested. And I think on an instinctive level, we're getting pretty good at detecting it. I would say the problem is for the person that is resorting to that. As you said, it's an expensive what. So I remember years ago, I was watching a guy, he was very good at Mid-Journey, and he was talking about how he used to want to be a National Geographic photographer, taking pictures of snow leopards and this kind of thing. But now he didn't need to because he could recreate it in Mid-Journey and it looked really good. And it made me sad to hear it because it was the thing of he didn't probably grasp what he was missing out on. So for me, it's the invisible skills that you're going to need in later life in your career. You are sacrificing now to get to the shortcut. So I know from going on shoots, if you're going on a National Geographic shoot, why is that photo valuable? Because it's hard to get, because it takes a long time to do. There's a lot of adverse conditions, and it's a very rare sight. But we also know along the way, you're going to, any shoot, any production, there's going to be problems. People are going to be late. Things are going to break. People are going to be ill, fed up, grumpy. Clients aren't going to be happy. Someone doesn't want to do this. You are constantly solving problems, adapting, enhancing your soft skills. And if you fast forward 5 years when you become a creative director, what is it that you need? Well, you need all those soft skills. So you are kind of self-neutering the potential future creative director by taking this shortcut, by resorting to technology. And yet when people know it's AI, they instantly devalue it because it came really quickly. The same as, and this is always the thing of, if you knew that someone had written their wedding vows using AI, how would you feel? You'd be offended.
Oh
It's
gosh.
how would your kids feel if they go, where did you come up with my name, Dad? And it's like, well, ChatGPT gave us a list. You think, wow. And because somewhere we go, if it's not important, then we outsource it to AI. If it's important, we take time to do it. And I think that's, so for my angle is, you have to be careful at what skills you're losing or what is atrophying when you are overly reliant on AI. And that's always my, so as a leader and as a founder, your strength might be, say, writing or your perspective. The temptation is to churn out more content. But I think, like anything, the volume, it drowns everyone out. It turns people off. We stop going to LinkedIn or whatever because we're just bombarded. So actually what people crave is the humanity. It's exactly what you said. We want someone to be nice to our mum, to give us a coffee, to say hello. These things don't go out of style. The whole hospitality industry is built on it. And anyone who adopts those characteristics always over-indexes against the competition. I think that's really where you should be aware of. If all of your competition is going to do that, that's a good thing, because they're going to lose those skills and you can, take advantage. Where I think it's really great is sometimes as a sort of analytical tool, but you always have to have, it has to be like just anyone who's a really good researcher or anyone. So for example, I find it's very good if I'm doing strategy sessions, if I tell it in advance, I'm hoping to get this out of the session, and then I upload my transcript and I say, how did I do? Where was I good? Where was I bad? What could I, because then it's objectively giving me feedback that can make me better. I think these things are great, but I'm always very aware of, I call it digital dementia, which is where you can be looking at reels on your phone. And I can't tell you what I was looking at half an hour before this call, but I can tell you, but I can tell you that my first beer tasted like when I was 12 years old in Portugal. My gran bought it for me. And it's like, that was a long time ago, but it's still very visceral because I was very immersed and I loved it and I lived it. So that's the difference, is like, if we aren't engaged in what we're creating, we won't remember it. And if we can't remember it, it's like the tree in the woods thing. Did it even happen? And when people question you, again, a bit like telling your truth and being honest about your purpose or lying, you're never consistent, because you're like, I don't know, ChatGPT probably wrote it and now I'm scrambling to remember what I said. You just look foolish,
Yeah. Thank you for sharing this, because, and it wasn't, AI is bad, or, or
No, not
humans
at
are
all.
best. And, I love that, because, a lot of the times the conversation ends up being, and we're against one or the other. It's not. It's part of our reality now and so on. But what I really kept from what you shared is that if I really value something and it really matters, I will take the time to do it. And that really resonates with me. And I think most of the reels you send me on Instagram are really about the Japanese mastering, or hospitality elements. You sent me about a restaurant recently, right? And it's those things that a machine couldn't produce. But also the amount of time it took someone to take care of us, the things that they do to show us that we matter, the way they value us. And that takes time. And that time space creates emotion, creates story, creates a landing, creates a connection. And we go back to all the principles you shared about what makes something memorable, what stays in our neurological system, what becomes a unique experience that we cannot forget, and what we come back for. And in a way that gives me hope, in the one-man band who's actually connecting a business to its real audience, but also how it can be supported by AI to reach the masses should it need to, how it can use it as a reflective tool to be able to improve and hone those skills. But actually, if we're not using our creativity, it will become atrophic. And that's a huge cost to bear, I think, in the next few years, if we don't create that bridge, if we don't keep honing. We will actually remain behind, not because we didn't use AI, but because we didn't value our strengths within us. So sorry, I'm making a whole
No, I think you're right. The reason why you're fall behind is because of your dependence on AI. And that's true of most things. But it also, it's, as you said, your own behavior. You will go back to places that value. It's eternal, isn't it? Throughout history, if you want to make a grand gesture, it takes time, it's effort. These, an engagement ring, there's got to be value in it, emotional or physical. There's some sort of sacrifice, because we know that it's not easy to come by. It's just people value scarcity, and I think that they'll just rush to use it for convenience. But I think that's the opportunity. I think people will, like I said, they'll copy each other, they'll rush there. And it's like what we said about the noise. The person telling you that they've unlocked the secret or they've beaten the algorithm, it benefits them to hear that, because they're selling you the secret themselves. They've got a course. What a coincidence. They're not in it long term. I think we want to be more human. Is always it works. It's fairly timeless. We can't avoid this, I don't think, as a species. So I understand the convenience, and I'm not a hater of AI, but I think you've always got to be the one who's in control and very much aware of what it's doing to you, and just having a think about, what happens if I continue down this path. It's amazing. But again, if you said like, oh, I can get it to do my graphics, well, yes, you and loads of people will do that. And now that's why we see fairly derivative graphics that look like they were made on AI. And now we got, again, too much of it. We get bored. It's too familiar. There's no novelty
with us. Yeah.
It's why trends burn out. It's not, we've just seen it too much, and then we don't value it because of the volume of it, and it looks familiar. So we just tune it out. That's why someone can go viral, but after that, the trend is gone. And chasing trends, people begin to go, what do you do? What do you stand for? Because I see you doing so much. 1 minute you're this, then you're that, then you're that, then you're that. Where that's why, again, back to purpose. If that is the through line through anything, how you talk about your purpose can change. But it's the consistency and the reliability and the believability that you're anchored to that belief is why I want to, because I want to commit to someone who I believe is committed to something for a long time. And that's what purpose gives you. And that's your advantage.
Who I want to work with. Thank you.
Yeah, exactly.
Any questions from anyone, please feel free to put them through. Any comments? What stayed with you from what Thad shared today? While I'm asking him the last question, tell us about your newsletter, Thad's Brain.
Oh, well, yes. So after talking about newsletters for years and advising clients on why they should start them, I've got, I'm using my Substack. So I think it's thadcox.substack.com.
Mm-hmm. And I will share the link afterwards in the comments on all of the channels that we are broadcasting. So
I think like most of my thinking will go there. I want to try and help people be optimistic and kind of put the value back into the thinking. And that's where so the best place is Thad's Brain, is where I'm going to be sharing more stuff like that. A lot of the X behaving, like why thinking, trying to encourage people to think differently. And like I said, and then if you've got, I would say, I had a good conversation with my friend James today. I was telling you earlier, we're sort of working on this syllabus to teach people over 6 months, particularly young designers, and the big thing that we felt when we were talking about AI is to remember that it's a fantastic way of being efficient in some places, which then should free you up to then put the time back into the relationships or the creativity or just doing stuff you enjoy. That for me is the nice balance, where repetitive tasks it can do for me and help me, but then things that matter, we should try and retain our kind of ability to persevere and find interesting ideas.
Yeah, because the value is in actually being here and being real and being present in the relationship, isn't it? We've got a couple of questions. I'll put them on show.
Oh, yeah.
We cannot see your name, unfortunately, but we will read out your questions. So please know that we are looking at it. So I'm bullish on AI in creative and design work, as long as treated like any tool. I don't know what that means, but number one, the decision to use it is conscious and appropriate. And number two, it's used to achieve something that could not be done without it, because they are unburdened by human traits. Algorithms can come up with things humans never could. Brilliant. An excellent tool for innovation and exploration. I think that's a point of view which is absolutely valid.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's very much like the user says, they're very aware of who's in control of the relationship and what AI is being used for. So as a tool, or just to give a unique perspective, I think absolutely, because I'd be wrong to say, oh, just talk to your friends, because they come with self-censoring and other things. That's why as we said, it's easier for me to get feedback than you, because like you've already got that relationship. I'm completely neutral. So yeah, no, I think again, I'd agree with that, definitely.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. And hello, Paul Morgan. Happen to know this person very well. Any
I've heard he's
suggestions
great.
to boost creativity for those feeling they aren't very creative? You mentioned about you don't believe that people are not creative. So I think that builds on to that comment you made. Any suggestions to boost creativity for those feeling they aren't very creative in their natural state of being?
Yeah, I would say it's always good to try different things. So I know that like there's a quote by Steve Jobs, and he talks about how creative people can kind of come up with ideas that logical people can't, and they feel a bit weird about it because it comes naturally to them. And so the way I would look at it is their ability to connect dots. So if you're doing something logical and familiar, they're quite linear dots, and they're the same dots as everyone else, so everything feels familiar. As a more creative person, you're looking to have a broader range of dots that are slightly more diverse, and you're looking to cross-pollinate ones that you wouldn't normally do. So in that case, I would say going to new places, doing new things, injecting novelty in your life will only expose your brain to more. So that would be the first bit. The second bit is knowing that when you do certain activities, your brainwaves change. So when you go, and I always get this wrong, but from beta brainwaves are like high concentration, or alpha, like you change your brainwaves from beta to alpha, I think, but you do that through low level activity. So showering is one where we always get lots of ideas. You're basically daydreaming. So running, hoovering, doing the washing up, mowing the lawn, driving. When we do that, we're slightly more relaxed, and that's when the connections will happen. Is trusting your subconscious to try and put things together. And when something happens, is going, oh, how do I capture it? Now, this is where AI is brilliant, because I can. So an example would be, I was running through Eton High Street one morning. I ran past the estate agents, and I had the idea, if I was an estate agent and I was showing people around a property, I give them a half an hour viewing, and I'm expecting them to make a decision. Why can't I just let them stay the night? Because then they would really know if they wanted to stay there. Airbnb exists. So why couldn't I offer like a home test drive? Because again, ex-BAME, like why? We do test drives of expensive cars. Why can't we do one of someone's home? Particularly if it's a flat that's not occupied, say. So the next thing is, oh, this could work, but how do I get this down? I'm out of breath and I haven't got a pen. So I would just get ChatGPT, and I would just talk into ChatGPT and say, here's my silly idea. Just transcribe this and summarize it for me. I'll come back to it later. Click, and I'm off. Now I can come back to it with a bit more time and reflect on whether this is a good idea or not. And like I said, so the balance is, I feel, filling your brain with interesting things to really stretch your thinking, and then doing activities that will allow your subconscious to connect those, and then just having a way to capture them. And just don't be worried. You'll have lots and lots of ideas. Some are good, some are bad. We all know as founders, what works for some person might not work for another. The amount of stories of Dragon's Den that they said no, which turned out to be amazing. So I think it's very much capturing as many as possible and then talking about them.
Yeah. And I think you were running in Eton High Street the morning we met for our meeting, because we were telling you about this Greek company who basically was crazy enough to say to its clients, why don't you sleep the night on our mattresses?
Yeah, in the actual shop. And then you said the mattresses ended up in hotels, and it was kind of, it's great. And so that's a weird idea, but it's happening somewhere. So that's so again, I would also say,
I think.
I'd say to Paul, the ex-behaving like why thinking is really interesting, because as you saw earlier with like a dentist in a fashion house, there is an example there. It's called La Maison Denture. I think you can look it up. And it's stunning because it's just very different, but that's a brand doing that. And so you realize, oh, if I start to apply this thinking, I can take my company and I can just change the other company it's behaving like. And I can go, well, all of a sudden I can see how I could be a bit different. And it's very easy to do. So I would say all those kind of things are worth trying.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for sharing so much of your creative mind with us today. Thank you for the people who contributed with comments and questions. Unfortunately, we can only see the LinkedIn one. So if there have been any questions on any other platforms, we will come back to you. Thank you very much for asking those. I will, of course, share how you can connect with Thad, and of course, share the link of his newsletter, Thad's Brain. Please do connect with him, because you will be creatively challenged, definitely, with his content. I'm following him. I'm one of his fans, and that's why he's here. Really, really wanted to thank you for helping us in our business, but also sharing what you can do for young founders, scale-ups, as well as one-man bands as well. In being their creative director, fractional creative director, and supporting them in really bringing their essence to the world. Jack says, thank you both. This was excellent. Thank you, Jack, for joining.
Thank you, Jack.
It's good to see you here. And really, really huge thank you and congratulations.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It's been wonderful. So I really appreciate that.
That's Brain. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for joining. And we will come to you in case we missed your questions on any of the other platforms. Lots of love. Take care. Bye.
Bye.